The Awakening. The emergency beacon from Kepler Research Station had been silent for 3 days when Captain Sarah Chen's patrol ship finally dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. What she found there would change the course of human history forever. Where Kepler Station once orbited the gas giant Kronos, there was nothing but debris and the cold vacuum of space. Sarah stared at her scanner readings in disbelief. The massive research facility that housed 12,000 scientists, engineers, and their families had been completely obliterated. Twisted metal fragments drifted in lazy spirals, catching the distant light of the system's pale yellow star. Sarah had commanded supply runs to Kepler Station for the past 5 years. She knew every corridor, every laboratory, every face in the crowded cafeterias. Dr. Williams from Xenobiology, who always asked about her daughter's school performance. Chief Engineer Martinez, who made the best coffee in 3-star systems. The Henderson family, who ran the hydroponics bay and grew the most beautiful roses she'd ever seen. All gone. Her communications officer, Lieutenant Davis, broke the terrible silence. "Captain, I'm detecting a faint distress signal from Grid Section 7. It's automated, but the signature is human." Sarah felt a spark of hope cut through her horror. "Take us there. Maximum burn." They found a single escape pod drifting among the wreckage, its occupant barely alive. Dr. James Park, one of Kepler's senior xenobiologists, had been in the pod for 4 days with failing life support. As Sarah's medical team worked to stabilize him, Park grabbed her arm with surprising strength. "They hunted us," he whispered, his eyes wild with trauma. "Like animals. They came in ships we'd never seen before, species we'd never encountered. But Sarah, they weren't here to conquer or negotiate. They were here to hunt." Sarah felt ice form in her veins. "Hunt? What do you mean?" "They had lists," Park continued, his voice growing stronger with urgency. "Names, ages, specializations. They knew exactly who they wanted. The children first, then the scientists, then anyone who tried to fight back. It wasn't war, Sarah. It was sport." Park pressed a data crystal into her hands. "I recorded everything I could before I escaped. The ship configurations, their communication frequencies, even some of their language. They called themselves the Hegemony, and Sarah, they've been doing this for centuries. We're not their first victims." The data crystal contained horrors that would haunt Sarah for the rest of her life. Video feeds showed alien creatures that resembled a cross between reptiles and insects, 7 feet tall with 4 arms and mandibles that clicked with excitement as they herded human families into cargo holds. The recordings captured their cruel laughter as children cried for their parents, their casual discussion of which humans would provide the best sport in their hunting preserves. But most chilling was the final recording, taken from Park's hidden camera in the station's central hub. A Hegemony commander, its scarred hide covered in trophies from previous hunts, stood before a holographic display showing dozens of human colonies across the galaxy. "The soft flesh species spreads too quickly," the creature had said in its clicking language. "We will thin their numbers before they become a threat. Begin the culling protocol on all marked worlds." Sarah transmitted the evidence to Earth Defense Command with a priority alpha encryption that would reach Admiral Marcus Rivera within hours. Rivera had been her instructor at the Naval Academy 20 years ago, and she knew he would understand the implications immediately. Admiral Rivera received Sarah's transmission in his office overlooking the sprawling military complex of Luna Base. As he watched the horrific footage from Kepler Station, his weathered face remained impassive, but his hands clenched into fists. Rivera had seen combat in the border wars against human separatists, but nothing had prepared him for this level of calculated cruelty. Within 6 hours, every human military installation in known space was on highest alert. Rivera called an emergency session of the Colonial Defense Council, gathering the leaders of 37 human worlds via quantum communication. "The threat we face is unlike anything in human history," Rivera addressed the assembled leaders. "This hegemony doesn't want our resources or our territory. They want to hunt us to extinction for entertainment. Negotiation is not an option. Surrender is not an option. We have one choice: total war." The council erupted in heated debate. Chancellor Morrison from New Geneva argued for attempting diplomatic contact. Prime Minister Jackson from Titan suggested evacuation to the Outer Rim colonies, but Rivera cut through their discussions with cold military logic. "They've already marked 37 human settlements for culling," he said, displaying the hegemony's targeting list. "Your worlds, your families, your children, they're not coming to negotiate, they're coming to hunt. We can either fight them as warriors or die as prey." The vote was unanimous. Humanity would go to war. But Rivera knew conventional weapons wouldn't be enough. The hegemony ships were faster, their weapons more advanced, and they had centuries of experience hunting supposedly inferior species. Humanity needed an edge, and Rivera knew exactly where to find it. Dr. Elena Vasquez had been developing classified biotechnology at the Prometheus Research Facility in the asteroid belt for the past decade. Her work on human enhancement had been considered too dangerous for implementation, too radical for ethical approval. Now, Rivera was about to give her unlimited resources and complete authority. "Doctor," Rivera said as he arrived at her laboratory 72 hours after the Kepler massacre, "I need you to make monsters." Dr. Vasquez was a small woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that seemed to see too much. She had lost her own family in the border wars and understood the price of being unprepared for violence. "Admiral, my research was designed to help paralyzed patients walk again, to cure genetic diseases, to extend human longevity. What I'm asking, Rivera interrupted, is for you to save our species. The hegemony thinks we're weak, defenseless prey. I want you to prove them wrong." Vasquez studied the footage from Kepler Station, watching the casual cruelty of the alien hunters. When she looked up at Rivera, her expression had hardened into something dangerous. "How much time do we have?" 6 months before their main fleet arrives. Maybe less. Then we'd better get started." The Prometheus project expanded from a small research facility to a massive underground complex spanning 3 asteroids. Dr. Vasquez recruited the best geneticists, cybernetics experts, and bioengineers from across human space. Working around the clock, they began creating something that had never existed before. Humans designed specifically for war. The first test subject was Commander Alex Thompson, a Special Forces veteran who had volunteered after losing his unit in a terrorist attack on Mars. Thompson was already an exceptional soldier, but Vasquez's modifications would make him something far beyond normal human capabilities. Enhanced bone density that could withstand impacts that would shatter normal skeletons. Muscle fibers rebuilt with synthetic proteins that provided strength and speed beyond the limits of natural biology. Neural pathways optimized for reaction time and tactical processing. Sensory organs augmented to detect threats across. But the most important enhancement was psychological. Vasquez had studied the predator mentality of the hegemony and designed her subjects to be even more ruthless, more focused, more terrifyingly efficient at violence. When Thompson emerged from the enhancement chamber 6 weeks later, he was no longer entirely human. He was something new, something designed to hunt the hunters. The first batch of enhanced soldiers, designated Alpha Team, underwent intensive training in deep space installations hidden from alien sensors. They learned to use weapons that had been developed alongside their physical improvements. Plasma rifles that could punch through hegemony armor, stealth suits that made them invisible to alien detection systems, and close combat weapons designed to exploit weaknesses in alien biology. Meanwhile, across human space, resistance cells were forming in secret. Sarah Chen had been promoted to colonel and given command of the underground network. Former Kepler station personnel who had been off-world during the attack became the core of her organization, spreading word of the alien threat through back channels and illegal transmissions. The resistance cells began preparing for guerrilla warfare, stockpiling weapons and supplies in hidden bunkers, establishing communication networks that could survive the destruction of entire worlds. They knew that when the hegemony arrived in force, the official military wouldn't be enough. Every human would need to become a soldier. 4 months after Kepler Station's destruction, hegemony scout ships began probing human border worlds. They expected to find the same terrified prey they had encountered before, species that would flee or surrender when faced with superior force. Instead, they found something that shouldn't have existed. The first hegemony hunting party landed on the agricultural world of Haven's Rest, expecting to capture a few thousand farmers for their preserves. They found the colony apparently abandoned, buildings empty, fields untended. But as they spread out to search for hiding humans, the trap was sprung. Alpha Team emerged from concealment like ghosts made flesh. Thompson and his enhanced soldiers moved with inhuman speed and precision, their weapons cutting through hegemony forces with devastating efficiency. What should have been a routine hunting expedition became a slaughter. But it wasn't just the military effectiveness that shocked the surviving aliens. It was the way the humans fought. The cold, calculating brutality, the complete lack of mercy or hesitation. The hunters had become the hunted, and their new predators showed no interest in sport or capture. One surviving hegemony soldier managed to transmit a desperate message before Thompson's team eliminated the last of the landing party. The soft flesh has changed. They are no longer prey. Recommend immediate withdrawal from this sector. The message was intercepted by human intelligence and broadcast across the resistance network. For the first time since Kepler Station, humans allowed themselves to feel hope. Admiral Rivera watched the combat footage from Haven's Rest with grim satisfaction. Dr. Vasquez had delivered exactly what he had asked for: monsters capable of fighting monsters. But this was only the beginning. The main hegemony fleet was still coming, and they would bring weapons in numbers that could overwhelm even enhanced human forces. Rivera knew that survival would require more than just better soldiers. It would require humanity to become something the galaxy had never seen before. As reports came in from other border worlds where enhanced human teams were eliminating hegemony scouts, Rivera began planning the next phase of his war. The aliens thought they were dealing with the same Wobu-eek species they had nearly exterminated at Kepler Station. The monster unleashed. 6 months after the Kepler Station massacre, the hegemony war master Zektar stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying reports from the border worlds with growing unease. What had begun as a routine culling operation was turning into something unprecedented in hegemony history. Zektar had overseen the extinction of 17 species over his 2-century career. He knew the pattern by heart: initial shock, desperate resistance, gradual collapse, and final submission. But these humans were not following the pattern. Instead of weakening, they seemed to be growing stronger and more dangerous with each encounter. The latest report from Zektar's scout commander was particularly disturbing. "War Master, we lost another hunting pack on the world designated Terra 7. 17 of our best hunters, eliminated by no more than 6 human soldiers. The survivors described them as demons wrapped in flesh, faster and stronger than any human should be." Zektar's mandibles clicked with irritation. "Impossible. Our intelligence indicates these humans are barely out of their primitive stage. They have no enhancement technology, no warrior culture. They should be fleeing before our approach." But the evidence was mounting that their intelligence was fatally flawed. Across 12 star systems, hegemony hunting parties were being systematically destroyed by human forces that fought with a brutality that shocked even the hegemony's hardened warriors. On Earth, Admiral Rivera was coordinating the largest military operation in human history. The enhanced soldiers of the Alpha program had proven devastatingly effective, but Rivera knew they would need conventional forces to support the final phase of his plan. Operation Nightfall was designed to demonstrate to the galaxy that humanity was no longer prey. Simultaneous strikes against hegemony installations crossed their entire territorial border, timed to coincide with the arrival of their main invasion fleet. Colonel Sarah Chen had been promoted to general and given command of the operation's Special Forces component. Her resistance networks had evolved into a sophisticated intelligence operation, providing real-time data on hegemony movements and identifying high-value targets for elimination. "General," Commander Thompson reported as he entered the briefing room, The enhanced soldier's presence still unsettled regular humans, his movements too fast and precise, his eyes holding a predatory focus that spoke of deadly purpose. Alpha teams 1 through 12 are in position. Beta and Gamma teams are standing by for secondary objectives. Sarah nodded, studying the tactical display that showed human forces positioned throughout hegemony space. It had taken months of careful infiltration to place their people, but now they were ready to show the galaxy what happened when humanity was pushed too far. Dr. Vasquez had continued her work throughout the preparation period, creating new generations of enhanced soldiers and developing weapons specifically designed to exploit hegemony biology. Her laboratories had become factories of controlled evolution, turning volunteers into living weapons that could match the aliens' physical advantages while surpassing their capacity for calculated violence. The psychological profiles are complete, Dr. Vasquez reported to Rivera on the eve of Operation Nightfall. The hegemony operates on predator-prey dynamics. They're psychologically conditioned to dominate weaker species, but become unstable when faced with superior force. Our enhanced soldiers are designed to exploit that weakness. Rivera studied the latest batch of volunteers emerging from the enhancement process. Each one was a human transformed into something that could hunt the hunters, their minds as altered as their bodies to become perfect instruments of retribution. "Doctor, what have we become?" Rivera asked quietly. "We've become what we needed to become to survive," Vasquez replied. "The hegemony forced this evolution. They wanted to hunt children for sport, so we became monsters to hunt them." Operation Nightfall began at 0600 Universal Standard Time across 12 star systems simultaneously. Human forces that had been lying in wait for months suddenly revealed themselves in coordinated strikes that caught the hegemony completely unprepared. On hegemony-controlled world designation Theta 9, Alpha Team 3 materialized from stealth positions around the primary military compound. Enhanced soldiers moved through the facility like death-given form, their weapons designed to cause maximum psychological impact as well as physical damage. The hegemony had built their reputation on being the galaxy's ultimate predators, but they had never faced prey that could become predators themselves. As enhanced humans tore through their defenses with inhuman speed and efficiency, panic spread through their ranks faster than plasma fire. Commander Thompson led the assault on the hegemony's regional command center, a massive fortress that had never been successfully attacked in 3 centuries of operation. His team of 12 enhanced soldiers eliminated over 300 hegemony warriors in less than an hour, leaving behind a scene that would become legend among both human and alien forces. But the physical victories were only part of Operation Nightfall's purpose. Admiral Rivera wanted to send a message that would resonate throughout the galaxy. Humanity was no longer defenseless prey. Human forces broadcasting on all frequencies transmitted a simple message as they systematically destroyed hegemony installations. "You chose to hunt our children. Now we hunt you. There will be no mercy. There will be no quarter. There will be no escape." The message was accompanied by footage of enhanced humans in action, moving with deadly grace as they eliminated hegemony forces with terrifying efficiency. The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. War Master Zektar watched his carefully planned invasion dissolve into chaos as reports flooded in from across his territory. Bases that had stood unconquered for centuries were falling to human forces in minutes. His finest hunters were being slaughtered by creatures that should not have existed. "How many?" he asked his communications officer. "All 17 forward bases have gone silent, War Master. Intelligence estimates suggest we've lost over 5,000 warriors in the past 6 hours. And War Master, the humans are broadcasting the executions." Zektar studied the intercepted human transmissions with growing horror. These were not the desperate acts of a dying species. These were the calculated strikes of apex predators eliminating competition. The humans moved with a cold efficiency that made even hegemony veterans uncomfortable. More disturbing were the reports from surviving hegemony forces about human behavior during combat. The enhanced soldiers showed no interest in capture or interrogation. They killed with mechanical precision, leaving behind displays of hegemony bodies that were clearly designed to terrorize any survivors. "War Master," his tactical officer reported, "we're receiving communications from the Galactic Council. They're demanding an immediate ceasefire and offering to mediate negotiations between our species and the humans." Zektar's mandibles clicked with bitter laughter. In his 2 centuries of military service, no species had ever forced the Galactic Council to intervene on their behalf. The humans had achieved in 6 months what entire civilizations had failed to accomplish in centuries. But Admiral Rivera had no interest in negotiations. The enhanced soldiers and resistance networks were only the beginning of his plan. Humanity had learned a crucial lesson from the Kepler Station massacre. In a galaxy where predators hunted for sport, survival required becoming an even more dangerous predator. Human shipyards throughout the colonial worlds were producing vessels designed with the same philosophy as the enhanced soldiers: faster, more heavily armed, and built for the single purpose of hunting alien ships. The new human fleet would carry enhanced crews who could outfight any alien species in ship-to-ship combat. General Sarah Chen coordinated the next phase of operations from her command ship, watching as human forces systematically eliminated every hegemony presence in human space. But this was not enough for the survivors of Kepler Station. "Admiral," she reported to Rivera, "Operation Nightfall has exceeded all projections. Hegemony forces are in full retreat from the border systems. However, I recommend we pursue them into their core territory." Rivera studied the tactical displays showing hegemony fleet movements. The aliens were clearly in chaos, their forces scattered and demoralized. It would be easy to accept their inevitable surrender offer and return to the previous status quo. But Rivera remembered Dr. Park's words about the lists of human colonies marked for culling. The hegemony had planned to exterminate humanity for sport. There could be no peace with a species that viewed human children as hunting trophies. "Negative, General. We're not stopping at the border. Operation Nightfall was just the beginning. I want every hegemony world to understand what happens when someone chooses to hunt humanity." Dr. Vasquez's laboratories began producing enhancement serums in massive quantities, transforming volunteers from across human space into the new breed of super soldiers. But the doctor had learned something troubling from her research. The psychological changes required to create effective human predators were becoming permanent. "Admiral, we need to discuss the long-term implications of the enhancement program," she reported during a secure communication. "The subjects are becoming increasingly aggressive, even toward other humans. We're creating a warrior caste that may not be able to integrate back into normal society." Rivera considered this information with grim acceptance. "Doctor, after what the hegemony did to Kepler Station, I'm not sure normal human society can survive in this galaxy. Maybe we need to become something else permanently." The enhanced soldiers were already adapting to their new role as humanity's ultimate weapons. They formed tight-knit units that operated with pack-like efficiency, hunting alien forces with an intensity that unnerved even their human commanders. But their effectiveness was undeniable. Reports from across hegemony space described scenes of devastation that exceeded anything in their military history. Human forces didn't just defeat their enemies. They eliminated them so thoroughly that other alien species began to question whether the hegemony could survive as a civilization. War Master Zektar received the final reports from his scattered fleet with growing desperation. The humans had not stopped at defending their territory. They were actively hunting hegemony forces throughout known space, eliminating any ship or installation they encountered with ruthless efficiency. "War Master, we're detecting human ships entering our home system. Intelligence suggests they're carrying enhanced soldiers and advanced weapons. What are your orders?" Zektar looked out at the stars that had once seemed like hunting grounds filled with inferior prey species. Now they seemed filled with apex predators that his people had inadvertently created. "Signal surrender to the human fleet," he ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of his species' mistake. "Perhaps they will show us the mercy we never showed their young." But as enhanced human soldiers landed on the hegemony homeworld and began systematically eliminating the species that had thought children made good hunting trophies, it became clear that mercy was not on the agenda. Admiral Rivera's final transmission to the Galactic Council was simple and direct. Humanity no longer accepts the existence of species that hunt sapient beings for sport. Any civilization that targets human colonies will face the same fate as the hegemony. We have evolved beyond your prey-predator dynamics. We are now the apex species in this galaxy. Survival is no longer allowed for those who hunt innocents. The galaxy had learned a terrible lesson about the dangers of underestimating humanity. In trying to cull what they saw as a weak species, the hegemony had forced humans to become something far more dangerous than any natural predator. They had awakened a monster that would reshape the balance of power throughout known space. Humanity had risen from the ashes of Kepler Station transformed. No longer the naive explorers seeking peaceful contact with alien civilizations, they had become exactly what the galaxy needed them to be, the ultimate predator, ensuring that no species would ever again mistake human compassion for weakness.